So glad that you could join me today. I am an author, a book lover, and a creator. And today I have a video for you. If you tend to find yourself procrastinating, maybe you're struggling to make the most of the time that you have to write, you're not getting as much done as you would like, finding that when you sit down to write, that you're losing focus or you're just not able to stay on track when it comes to your writing. I have for you today my top 5 tips to help you be a more productive writer. These are tips that I find very helpful. Don't forget to go ahead and hit the subscribe button so that you can stay up to date on future content. Very first tip is going to be something that you've heard before, but with a little bit of a twist on it. And that is going to be that you need to schedule your writing time. You need to set a specific time each day, each week, whatever your writing schedule looks like. You do not have to write every day to be a writer, but being consistent on whatever schedule that you have and working constantly towards your writing is definitely going to help you be more productive, and it's going to help you be a better writer. It's really important to set aside on your calendar and block out those times for you to write. Here is where I'm going to put my own specific spin on this that you may not have heard, that you need to set some limits on your writing time. And what I mean by that is not to say that you can't write more if the magical muse and the creativity spurs and you're able to keep writing, do that. I'm not saying that you need to stop writing if you're in the flow of things. But I am saying that it really helps if you not only have a specific start time for your writing, but a specific set time, and that those are somewhat limited. Into consideration that if you set yourself up for a really long block of writing time and you're not used to that, you can definitely build up your stamina where writing 2 hours or 3 hours or more at a time is perfectly feasible to do. But if you're a new writer, or if you tend to get distracted a lot while you're writing and lose focus and you're researching and then you're looking up something on Twitter, then I really think that setting a limited specific time for your writing is going to be invaluable to you. So maybe break it up a little bit throughout the day. Even if you do have 2 hours blocked off that you can write, I want you to think about setting some more specific goals in there, some limits on your time. For instance, what I do, and this works for me, word count goals do not work for everybody. I'm going to get up and I'm going to write for 30 minutes straight. I'm going to write at least 750 words, and then I'm going to stop. I'm going to take a short break. I'm going to go back in with my second writing session of about 700 to 750 words in another 30-minute increment, and then I'm going to stop. I'm going to take another break. That concludes, usually my daily goal is about 1,400 words. Now, a lot of days I'm going to write later than that. I may even schedule in some time to write later than that. But I set myself an overall goal for the day, finishing this scene or finishing this chapter, and try different things out until you find your flow, kind of what works best for you. But I do think it is key to schedule those specific writing times and give yourself some limits, some deadlines. It will help you be more productive. Just think about this. If you know you have all day to write something, okay, not everybody's that lucky, but let's just say you have a day off, you have nothing to do to reach a certain word count, but you haven't set aside a specific time, you just know you're gonna do it. Okay, I am really guilty of doing this sometimes, guys, I'm not even lying. And then before you know it, it's 8 o'clock at night and you haven't even gotten started. How can you be productive if you don't make it a priority, if you don't set it in your schedule, and if you don't give yourself some deadlines? Number 2 is something that you probably heard other writers mention, but it really, I think, can be an underused tool, and that is to use voice memos recording. Not only can you use this throughout the day if you're busy, when you have a sudden idea, or in your car waiting to pick your kids up from school, or you have some time on your lunch break, you don't really have time to sit down to write out some detailed notes, to even pull out that voice recorder and record your thoughts on your progress, record on what you're intending to write, something that comes to mind about a character, just whatever it is. Later, when you have time, you can play that back. And a lot of times this is going to be a way that you can get yourself out of some stuck points by simply going back to those old voice memos and finding out what you were thinking on that particular day. Have you made it happen? Is it going to change? I mean, there are so many ways that voice memos can be invaluable. You can also use voice dictation to write. I have tried this. It has not been incredibly successful for me, but it is something that a lot of writers use. So moving on to our third tip. This is going to be something you probably heard me talk about, but I'm going to talk about it again because I really find, for me, this helps me be more productive and get more done. And that is to set up and use a tangible reward system. Now, it's great to have long-term rewards. When you finish your book, you're going to reward yourself with this big item. Those are great things to work toward. But I'm talking about something you can do on a daily basis. And this can help you beat your procrastination tendencies if you set it up right. So basically, you have your writing session set and your time scheduled. So you know that you're going to be writing, right? Okay, so now you need a list of rewards. These are things that you can reward yourself with pretty much right after or during that day after you've finished your writing session and your goals for the day. For me, that's going to be things like doing a page in my art journal, watching a YouTube video, reading a chapter of a book, watching an episode of TV, playing around on Pinterest, having a fancy chocolate, rewarding myself with extra cup of tea or cup of coffee. These are all just little things that I do during the day, things that I enjoy and I like. And these are also the things I will find myself doing when I'm supposed to be writing. Yep, these are things that I do when I'm procrastinating. So you're just flipping that around, and what you're doing, instead of procrastinating, doing the things that you love and then feeling bad about it, you're flipping this around, guys. You're turning it so that the things that you enjoy doing, you're going to get to do after you finish your writing. Just knowing that you're working toward a goal, you're writing a book, for instance, it's going to take a long time before you see that first draft finished, before you see that second draft, before you see it published. It's a long, hard process. To get more done and not to lose your focus and burn yourself out, it's so important to take time to do things that you want to do. Set it up as a reward system, guys. This is just going to help you be more productive. It has helped me tremendously. If you're having trouble thinking of what rewards, make them realistic. I mean, obviously, if you don't live near the beach, you're not going to reward yourself with a beach day for writing 700 words. I mean, you've got to make it realistic. You've got to make it reachable. You've got to make it something that you're going to enjoy and can do. You're not going to reward yourself with a shopping trip every day unless you want to be really broke and you can afford it, then do it. Set yourself up for success instead of for failure. On to tip number 4. This one's a big one, and I know it's one you've heard before, but I gotta throw it in there, and that is you've got to eliminate as many distractions as you can. We live in a very distracted world, in a very distracted society, and the reality is there are going to be interruptions and distractions that you cannot control, and you will probably have to learn to work around those. If you have young kids or crying babies, obviously you can't always just ignore them, but you can remove as many. Thinking about what your distractions are. Know what distracts you. If it's your phone, you need to turn it off. If it's the internet, disconnect from your Wi-Fi. If it's family members, try to find a time that there's less activity in your home. Find a way to take your writing outside of the home if that's something that works for you. There are always ways to minimize distractions. I think we've all done it before. You know, you're in the middle of writing and you get a sudden phone call and you take it just real quick, and the next thing you know, your writing time, your precious time that you've scheduled and set aside for the day is gone. You're behind. All for a phone call that probably could have waited until you were finished. So minimize those distractions. So I do have a tip for you. Since this is a pretty common problem, I wanted to put in another idea. Sometimes the things that distract you are in your mind. We have so much going on. If you're a writer, you likely have another job, you might have a family, you might have another responsibilities and passions and things that are vying for your time. And all of those things tend to weigh heavily on our mind, and sometimes they can block our creativity. They can keep us from getting in the writing zone. So I recommend that you set aside some time before your scheduled writing time to sit down and either use your voice memo, talk through some of the things that are on your mind, grab a piece of paper, do a brain dot. Don't you know what that is? A brain dump. And just let yourself pour out all of the things that are on your mind, related to your work, not related to your writing, related to your writing, whatever it is that's on your mind. Just spend about 5 minutes and let yourself clear all of that out. When you sit down to write, those things aren't pushing in on you and they're not blocking your creativity. They're not going to distract you as much. Get them out there, get them out of your head, and know that you can come back and do them later. Another thing for removing distractions is to get the tasks done that you need to get done. So obviously before I start my writing day in the mornings, I have to get my kids to school. You know, I could be one of those awesome people who gets up a super hour earlier to write, but yeah, that's not going to happen. Just not a morning person. I have things I have to get done. I have to get them to school. I have to get back. I have to have my coffee. I have to take care of the cat and just clear out, or if there's an immediate, I will get those things done and out of the way. And I set up my schedule so that I can do this. And I encourage you to do that as well, because there's nothing like being in the middle of the zone and remembering you might have forgot to pay the electric bill. Set out the food to defrost so that you can cook food for your family that day. Just minimizing those distractions, removing them as much as you possibly can. And that brings me to my final tip. This is so important, and you probably picked up that I'm a big fan of planning. I do love to plan. Does this mean that I stick to my plan at all times? Does it mean that I always have a good plan? Well, heck no, it doesn't. I can be quite ridiculous and put way too much on my plate, and I can fail to plan and just randomly do things through the day and be successful with it. But overall, that's not the case. Overall, and when it comes to writing, now I know if you're a pantser, this is going to be a little different for you. And again, not all of these tips are going to work for everybody. Some of them you're going to have to tweak and you're going to have to change and you're going to have to make them fit you and your lifestyle, and that's okay. But if you will take the time to know in advance, guys, this is the tip, prepare in advance. Know what you are going to write before you sit down and start staring at that blank page, the little cursor beeping at you, the empty lines on the page, and you're holding your pen and you're like, I have no idea what I am supposed to be writing. You need to know. Break it down as much as possible. Having a great outline is key. Just, even if you're not going to stick to it fully, that's okay. Just knowing that today I'm going to be working on chapter 3, scene 5, or today I'm going to be working on bringing out this element in my story. Just in some way, you need to know exactly what you're going to write before you sit down. Now, of course, part of the writing process is that as you start writing, the ideas start coming and flowing and things change. So you're not going to be sticking to that completely unless you're awesome organizer and you can stick to your plans perfectly, and yay to you. Just having that starting point is enough. just knowing where you're starting so that you're not sitting there or having to read back through what you wrote the previous day to try to figure out where you're going to go from there, and then you're getting hung up in trying to figure out why you wrote that, and maybe I should edit this, and why did I put that, and start second guessing yourself and fall into that deep rabbit hole of looking back over what you wrote instead of writing something today that you're supposed to be writing today. Know what you're going to write in advance. Now, some writers find that stopping in the middle of a scene, stopping in the middle of a sentence, stopping in the middle of a chapter, stopping in the middle of some sort of action gives them an easy momentum so that when they jump right in, the next day, they're going to be able to pick up. They can just go. They know that this scene is happening, and that's what they're writing. I think this is Kristen Martin. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what she does is she takes time after each writing session to review what she's wrote, and then I think she jots down maybe on sticky notes or something like that what she's going to be working on, how it ended, and what she's going to be working on the next day. So there's lots of different ways that you can do this. Be you a plotter, be you a pantser, whatever the case, find ways to prepare in advance so that you know. I found this to be, oh my gosh, so true during this year's NaNoWriMo. I had an excellent detailed outline that went right up to the first act and a little past. Everything that happened after that was not very well outlined. I didn't know where my story was going. I wasn't sure how I was going to get there. I knew that I was connecting some dots, and I flew through the first act. Within a couple of days, I had written everything because I had planned it out in my outline. I really knew what was going to happen. I knew how they were going to get there. There were some new things that came into play and some things that were added in, but overall, I was able to just as fleshed out as the beginning. That's when I started to stumble. That's when I started to lose focus. That's when my word count for the day started to go down. It wasn't because I didn't have a passion for it. It wasn't because I wasn't in love with my story. It wasn't because I wasn't setting aside the time or planning the time. You know, the key factor was I didn't know what I was writing before I sat down to write. If you're a pantser, this may not be an issue for you. You may be able to just work through that. But if you're a little bit of a planner like I am, I do think that this is a tip for you. My top 5 tips to help you be a more productive writer. They are things that you can take and incorporate into your life, into your writing style. I would love to hear your tips as well. If you are someone who struggles with being productive, with getting things done, go ahead and give this video a like so that I know that this type of video will be helpful for you in the future. Leave me a comment below with any questions or video topics or writing questions that you would like me to address, because I'm so happy to do that. Always, thank you so much for joining me. I have a really exciting announcement that is coming up soon about a new project that I'm going to have out and some ways that you can help me with it. So go ahead and subscribe to hop over to my website, authorApril.com. Sign up for my newsletter so that you can stay up to date and know things before I post them on my YouTube channel. I hope that you have an awesome day. Go write, go be awesome. Go be a blessing to somebody else, and I will see you back here next time. Bye.